Hello everyone. In the previous session, we were discussing about social audit and corporate governance. So continuing with the concept of corporate governance, today we are going to look into the concepts related to benefits of good corporate governance in India, and whistleblower or whistleblowing, and then we will move on to the second part of our module 3, which is entrepreneurship. There we will understand concept, importance of entrepreneurship, and then charms of being an entrepreneur, entrepreneurial development process, and characteristics of successful entrepreneurs. These are the topics we are going to understand in today's session. So first topic being benefits of good corporate governance. In previous session we have understood what it means by the term good corporate governance. Okay. Now what are the benefits of this good corporate governance? First of all, it creates overall market confidence and long-term trust in the company. So how it builds long-term trust or market confidence? Since corporate governance is good in the company, it will be known to the stakeholders, and thereby they will think that this company is good in terms of corporate governance. Definitely we are going to get profits if we put our money, or if we purchase the shares from this particular organization. So in that way it will be helping in the overall market confidence, and then it leads to increase in companies' share prices. As I have indicated, since you have a market confidence, definitely everyone wish to buy your shares, and thereby the share price also can increase. And then it ensures the integrity of the company's financial reports. So corporate governance is good. That indicates that the company is trustworthy, and thereby you can see that financial reports which are produced in public will be integral in nature, or the integrity of financial reports can be verified. And then we have, it limits the liability of top management through careful articulation of the decision making process. Since corporate governance is good, that indicates that there is a proper articulation of decision making process, and the responsibility of management will be reduced, and you can say the liability is limited, and thereby there is a proper way of functioning of an organization if good corporate governance is there. Then we have, it improves the performance at the top level by inducting independent directors. So as we have understood, corporate governance is all about inducting independent directors into the company, and thereby they will be monitoring every aspect of the company, and they will be giving inputs whenever required, and thereby you have a strategic performance improvement of the organization. Okay, in that way the good corporate governance is going to help every other organization. Okay, so now next topic we have is corporate governance in India. We have understood the importance. Now coming to the corporate governance in India, who regulates this corporate governance? It is SEBI, that is Securities and Exchange Board of India, monitors or regulates corporate governance of listed companies in India through clause 49. And how an company becomes listed, or what are the responsibilities or the rules to be followed by any listed company is given by the following points. Okay, 50% of board should consist of independent directors. If the company has a chairman, if the company is having a chairman, 50% of the directors should be independent, and if chairman is not there, then 1/3 of the board should consist independent director. 1/3 means 33% of the directors should be independent. That is the first responsibility or the first rule to follow for a listed company. And then who is not considered as an independent director? For that the SEBI lists 4 different conditions. First one is A shareholder with more than 2% shares in the company cannot be an independent director. A former executive of the company left less than 3 years ago also cannot be an independent director. And a partner of a current legal or audit or a consulting firm or the sister concern firm, someone is working over there, you cannot put him as an independent director. Similarly, you have a relative or a promoter or an executive director, you want to put or you want to recruit him as a or her as a independent director, it is not possible according to the rules of SEBI or Securities and Exchange Board of India. So if these rules are followed, then you will be given authority saying that this company is following the corporate governance laws or rules. Okay. And the next point we have is, in India there are several bodies that rate companies for their credit worthiness. Credit worthiness means the ability of an organization to repay the debt. So how they repay and what is the need for repay? Say you are going to invest in an organization, you want to know about the organization, how it is performing previously. So for that you need to see the credit rating of that organization. Based on the previous performance, different bodies in India provide the credit rating for organizations, whether this particular organization is going to be doing better in the future based on its previous performance, whether it is going to pay back your money if you invest in. Okay, and that way the corporate governance is monitored, and in public domain you will be knowing the credibility of an organization. So the different bodies which are there in India for rating the different organizations are CRISIL, that is Credit Rating and Information Services India, ICRA, that is Investment Information and Credit Rating Agency of India, then you have CARA or CARE, Credit Analysis and Research, and then you have Duff and Phelps Credit Rating India, DCR. So these bodies, apart from this, there are many bodies which rates the organizations, and thereby they tell the credit worthiness about the organization, and based on that you can conclude which organization to trust or which organization is having a good corporate governance or not, all those things. Okay, so that's about the corporate governance. Next concept we have is whistleblower. So what do you mean by whistleblower? Whistleblower is an honest and conscientious individual who discloses in public interest about gross corruption, mismanagement or abuse of authority or grave injustice prevailing in a company. So he is a honest and conscientious person who indicates or who talks in public saying that something bad happening in this organization, or some injustice is happening in this organization, or some gross corruption is there in this organization. For the benefit of whom? For the benefit of the stakeholders of that organization. It might be public, or it might be other employees, or it might be the government. Okay, so he is called as a whistleblower. He talks in public about the mismanagement happening in an organization. And the origins of this whistleblowing is traced back to the use of canaries. Canaries are colorful birds which used to sing, correct? So the coal miners used to take them to mining. If these birds detect any carbon monoxide or toxic gases, they either die or they stop singing, and thereby it is a kind of alert for them. So we have to vacate the mines, and it is a whistleblowing for the miners. Similarly, a person who talks in public regarding the organization's mismanagement or corruption, he is warning other stakeholders. Okay, and in India we have a Whistleblower Protection Act, which was made a law in 2011 and amended in 2014. Okay, that's all about the concepts related to social responsibilities of businesses. Now our next concept we have is entrepreneurship. We are going to understand here what is entrepreneurship. Prior to that, who is an entrepreneur? Okay, so who is an entrepreneur? Entrepreneur is a person who creates an enterprise or who implements an idea and builds a company, can be called as an entrepreneur. And it is a general definition. We can have a more diverse definition where entrepreneur is the one who comes up with an idea and implements in changing the dimensions of the business, you can say. It might be in manufacturing, or it might be in marketing, or it might be in R&D. Everywhere you can see entrepreneurs. You come up with a new idea and try to implement and improve the process. Okay, you can be called as an entrepreneur by that means as well. And the process of creation, the whole process of doing these things is called as entrepreneurship. Okay, and the origins of this word entrepreneur has been traced back to French word which is entreprendre, and it means to undertake. Undertake what? To undertake the risk of new enterprises. Doing something new is called as entrepreneur. And then entrepreneur is essentially a visualizer and actualizer. Visualizer means he is going to visualize the things which he is aiming of implementing, and he plans for implementing it and he runs it successfully. Okay, in that way entrepreneur can be called as visualizer and actualizer. He sets the machinery into running. And then we have entrepreneurial development is a key to socio-economic transformation of the region. This is a very important reason we are going to push for entrepreneurship. We need entrepreneurship in our country. Okay, now let us see what are the different important reasons for entrepreneurship. So importance of entrepreneurship we will understand by this concept. So entrepreneurship development is a key to economic development. So if you have more and more entrepreneurs, you will be producing more and more goods in your own self-sufficient way in the particular region, and thereby it is a key to economic development. And then you have the objectives of industrial development, regional growth and employment generation depend upon entrepreneurial development. Here the objectives of industrial development. If industries are developing, then only you will be having a regional growth, and then you will be having employment generations, because industry is run based on the human resource, correct? So it is a very important part of industrial development and regional growth. And then in practice, entrepreneurs have historically altered the direction of national economics, industries or markets. This is also a very important reason why we should have entrepreneurship. Historically, if you see, the entrepreneurs who have developed or who have implemented their ideas and now grown up to a very large industries, and thereby they have given the direction to companies' economics and the diversification of markets, and that is why we need entrepreneurs, and it is the importance of entrepreneurship. And then we have entrepreneurs have introduced quantum leaps. Quantum leaps means revolutionary changes. For example, internet and mobile phones, they have revolutionized the technological world, correct? So they have introduced the quantum leaps in technology, and more productive uses have been achieved with this entrepreneurship. And then the most basic reason is India needs entrepreneurs to capitalize on new opportunities and to create wealth and new jobs. This is a very important reason why we should have entrepreneurship. Okay, so these are the points where we can understand the importance of entrepreneurship. Next concept we have is charms of being an entrepreneur. Charms means the fascinating facts about entrepreneurs. First one is you are your own boss. You will be your own boss. You will be having the complete authority, correct? And you will have a chance to put your ideas into practice. Here your ideas not depend on anyone's decision. You can put your ideas and implement them, okay? And as an entrepreneur, it is you who set the goal and plan the action. So no one is going to direct you regarding the goals, and the actions need to be taken to achieve the goal. You will be the one who set the goal and take the appropriate action, and then you can make your own decisions. You will be your decision maker. Nobody else will put their decision onto you, and you have to obey whether you are satisfied with the decision or you are okay with the decision or not, correct? But here you can make your own decisions, and you will make money for yourself rather than for someone else. If you are an employee in an organization, you will be working for salary, and you will be not getting as much as you must get for the particular work, or the profit is mostly shared among the owners. Employees will get only a small incentive or bonus, correct? And if you become an entrepreneur, you will be making money for yourself, for not for any owner. And then you will have self satisfaction of creating and running your own business. The most important or fascinating fact about entrepreneurs is you will be self satisfied. You are owning a business and running it successfully. That is very important, correct? So these are the charms of being an entrepreneur, or fascinating facts about an entrepreneur. The next concept is we'll try to understand the difference between an entrepreneur and a manager. So entrepreneur is his own boss, whereas manager is a salaried employee. And when it comes to entrepreneur, he takes his own business, whereas manager executes the decisions of the owner. And entrepreneur hires employees. He employs human resource, or he employs people for his work, whereas manager himself is an employee. And then entrepreneur will be having uncertain rewards, which can be unlimited. If your business runs successfully, you will be having unlimited rewards, whereas fixed rewards, and the manager is a salaried person. These are the differences, few differences you can say between an entrepreneur and a manager, okay? Next we'll see what is entrepreneurial development. Entrepreneurial development is a process, and it can be explained in following 5 stages. First one is perceiving, identifying and evaluating an opportunity. Second one is drawing of a business plan. Third one is marshalling resources. Fourth one is creating the enterprise, and the fifth one is consolidating and management. What is perceiving, identifying and evaluating an opportunity? Let us consider an example. Now in this COVID pandemic situation, you have a problem of hand sanitizers, where you need to touch the sanitizer and sanitize your hands. So you can now think about an idea where this problem can be solved. That is called as perceiving. You perceive the problem and you identify in what way it can be solved by using a touchless sanitizer dispenser. Now you evaluate that idea by making an prototype. So prototype you will evaluate, and you see it as an opportunity. So perceiving, identifying and evaluating the opportunity. Now once you done with your prototype and you have tested, if it is feasible, then you prepare or drop a business plan. What should be done, how manufacturing can be done and how it can be marketed, you will think about it. And then you deal with marshalling of resources, that is accumulating human resource or material resources, and then creating the enterprise, or you will implement the idea into practice, or you will create the enterprise. And then you have consolidating and management. This is the last process where you run the business successfully based on your knowledge and experience. That is, you consolidate the things and manage the business. Okay, in that way the entrepreneurial development will be having 5 different stages. Okay, and next we have is characteristics of successful entrepreneurs. What are the characteristics one should have to become an successful entrepreneur? They are creativity, innovation, dynamism, leadership, team building, achievement motivation, problem solving, goal orientation, risk taking and decision making ability, and commitment. If the entrepreneurs are having one or more characteristics, then they may become successful. Okay, so first we will try to understand what is the characteristic of creativity, and then we will move on to innovation, dynamism, and other characteristics of entrepreneurs. Creativity is the ability to bring something new into existence, and this creative process involves 5 stages: germination, preparation, incubation, illumination, and verification. As you can see in the creative process block diagram, germination means it is recognizing some problem, or it is the seeding stage of a new idea. Once you have got idea, you consciously search for knowledge, and that stage is preparation stage for creativity. And then it can be called as rationalization, that is logically thinking about the idea whether it is going to be feasible or not, whether if I market this particular product, is it going to work in the market or not. All those things you will think consciously, and you gather the information regarding the particular idea. And then the next step you will go through is incubation, where it involves subconscious assimilation of information or fantasizing. You will be go on adding the different concepts to that idea, that is fantasizing. After some time you will feel that this idea can be feasible, and that stage is called as illumination or realization. Once you think it is feasible, you will try to verify the idea, you will build a prototype, or you will discuss with others, and you will get more clarity about the idea, and that is the last stage of creativity. Now you can go and implement your idea. So that completes the creativity activity of an entrepreneur. Okay, so this is very important characteristic, because once you have a creative thinking, then only you can get idea and you can implement the idea. If you are not creative enough to search for a problem and search how to solve that problem, you will not be able to become an entrepreneur. So you have to be creative to become an entrepreneur. Okay, next we have is innovation, dynamism. So these concepts we'll try to understand in the next session. For today we'll stop here, and I hope you have understood the concepts which we have discussed today. Okay, so we'll try to understand these concepts in the next session. Thank you.